Paddy, I know you've been farming for a long time, but when did you first start trialling?
Well, I first started trialling in July 1983.
Oh, got us back that
It's
far.
back that far, 35 years this year, yeah. I was 15 when I started out, and my first trial was a bit of a baptism of fire because I had a bitch called Nell, and I ran her in a small trial. It was kind of a football pitch, and I got 4 2-year-old Scotch Horny Weathers.
Lovely.
And dog and sheep all ended up in through the crowd, so I didn't start off very well, but stuck at it anyhow.
Well, you're a fairly humble fella. Maybe it's going back to that there. You started off on the right foot.
Well, maybe, yeah. There was only one way to go, and that was improve a bit.
And so when you got going, I know your father tried a lot. Surely he must have had a big influence. Was it just him, or who gave you a hand when you were starting out?
Yeah, well, sure, it was him that really started. He was at it for a good few years before I started. Before I started trialling, anyhow, I used to be walking the dogs at home here, alright, and then I was going to the trials with him and watching it for years, and then sure, the main influences were him, Tim Flood, Norman Deacon and John Breen. They were my 4 mentors, and unfortunately the 4 of them are passed on now, but still try to carry on as they taught me,
The one thing about them boys, we have plenty of stories anyway. They left us plenty of stories.
There's plenty of stories and plenty of fun and plenty of term going on, yeah.
They're not gone too far.
No, they're there in the background.
But and so where did you go for dogs then? How did you find dogs to get trialing with?
Yeah, well, I saw mainly the breeding was between those people. Tim Flood Scott was mainly the foundation of them, and they all came from there, And
was Scott a very successful dog? I don't remember him now.
Yeah, well, I don't actually remember Scott trialling because he was trialling in the 70s. I think it was 76, maybe that in the mid 70s anyhow that he won an Irish national.
Aye.
And he was a good dog, but he also bred well.
Yeah,
bred very well, and a lot of the dogs in Ireland to this day, if you go back in their background, you'll see Scott there,
Yeah, and have you any particular things that you breed for? Is there things that you like to follow or you like to see in a young dog?
Yeah, well, there is things I like to see. I like to see a bit of natural ability. I like to see a bit of power. But for a trial dog, I think there's 2 or 3 things that's really important, really essential, I think, and that's a good outrunner, a good listener, and a trier.
Yes.
A dog that'll try or they'll try their best for you, and whatever way it works out, then so be it. Like,
that's the thing I forget about. All right, the trier there. The trier is a very attractive quality, isn't it? You get attached to a trier.
You do, yeah, and you know what you have. Then you know they're going to do their best for you. But the outrunner and the listener as well is, especially nowadays in trialing, you're dependent on the dog to leave you and get behind the sheep without any command, if possible.
Yes.
And if you can have a good outrunner, lose a little bit on your outrunner, and have a fairly good lift, it's a hell of a start.
Yes.
To any run,
Yes, you can go on from there.
Yeah, you can walk from there, but if the dog does damage on his outrun, and then usually if they do damage on the end of their outrun, they're doing damage on their lift.
Yes.
And it kind of knocks the wind out of your sails from the start.
Sabotage from the start.
From the word go, yeah.
And I know you know a bit about breeding. Not everybody might know you, but like you were well able to breed 2 supreme champions. And in typical fashion, Toddy, you gave your friend one first, and then you gave your own one second.
Yeah. Well, Frank Cashin got Jan when she was young, very young, and sure he was the first Irish person to win a supreme in 1997 in Thurles. It's a great achievement, and he was only about maybe 6 years at trialing at that stage.
Yeah.
So it was a great achievement.
And can you tell us a bit about Jan?
Small little bitch she was, yeah, very small, but as we said before, she was a good listener, she was an outrunner, and she was a trier. She was a genuine little bitch.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Unfortunately, she never bred. She couldn't have pups, or didn't have pups, but she was a good little bitch just the same,
Yeah, I remember her. I remember Frank running her and that.
Yeah.
And then your dog Craig, what was he like, Toddy? I didn't see him now, but
yeah,
I heard a lot about him.
Well, Nell was Craig's mother, and she was a handful for years. And I was at a stage one time I was thinking about leaving it with trials as regards her, And I remember Norman Deacon said to me when she was about 3-year-old or so, stick with that one, she'll be a good bitch, So I stuck with her, and she was third in 1999 in Aberystwyth in the international. and that was September. So then in the back end of that year, I brought her up to Norman Deacon's Craig, and that's where my Craig came out then.
Yes, yes.
The red Craig, yeah.
Aye.
And he was a year old probably before he really got keen enough to go start training, you know. But he was a nice dog. He was the same. That's what I you know, kind of looking for. He was a good outrunner. In the beginning, he was crossing a bit alright, but he got over that and he started a good wide outrunner. And he had a nice bit of power, and he was a good listener. He was a very good listener.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's the thing now, you said he was crossing a bit at the start and things like that. I often wonder, do people get rid of dogs a little bit quick, you know, when they see falls, do they panic a bit? What do you think about that?
Well, the first year I ran Craig in nurseries, I ran him in a few of them, and I could not stop him crossing. And he wasn't doing it at home at all, couldn't figure it out.
Aye.
And I stopped running him altogether. I said if I keep at it, he'll only get a bad fashion, and keep at it. And the next year then he wasn't crossing. He just changed, you know, changed completely. Yeah.
Toddy, what must it feel like to win an international?
Well, sure, I suppose it's something that anyone that ever walked out to the post is in the back of their mind. They'd like to win a Supreme at some stage, you know, and it can't happen to everybody, but it's nice to, you know, to get a chance at it and for it to happen once anyhow in your lifetime. It's a great feeling, sure. It's a great feeling. It's nice to hear that pen gate slapping closed on the 5 colours, you know. yeah. There's a lot of work goes in. It's just the same with everybody. A lot of work goes in to get a dog to that standard, and then things must go right on the day for you, and the sheep must suit and everything, like, you know, suit the dog.
Yeah, no, a lot of things have to come off, a lot of preparation, and then a bit of luck on the day, something going the right way.
Exactly,
but I see the glass in the press there, and the Supreme written on it, and like, you have it in the bag now, Toddy, you have it forever. But where do you go from that then? Is it hard to motivate yourself to go back out and train, or do you want to go back and win it again next year?
Yeah, I think the motivation is still there. It's just, it's hard to keep finding the dogs.
Aye.
You know, it's hard, and that dog that you have that wins it, they don't last forever. You know, and it's hard to keep the form right for him, with him and everything, you know. There's the odd dog, maybe they can win it twice, but it's the exception rather than the rule.
Yeah. Like, we see a Supreme winner winning it, and, you know, and a few years later then, or next year you have a new Supreme winner, and after that you have a new Supreme winner. But I always think, you know, you need everything to happen now, but it's a very small window. You get on the team a few times in your life, and, you know, then you get to the international, and then you have to be lucky enough to qualify for a Supreme.
Exactly.
So really, for a successful fella, maybe he's only going to ever have 4 or 5 chances at it, and he needs to click on one of them.
Yeah, well, that's it. You see, at the beginning of the season, that Supreme competition starts out with 600 dogs.
Yes.
You have 150 from 4 nationals.
Yes.
And to come out on top of that 600, things must go your way. Like,
yes.
You must get the breaks. You know?
Yes.
The ball must hop the right way for you.
Yeah. And then the other thing I sort of forget about a little bit is you've won a couple of nationals as well, haven't you?
Yeah. I was lucky enough in 1990. I won the national with a bitch called Nell. She was a good little bitch. A bitch I'd like to have back now.
Aye.
Yeah. Because I think I might be able to get a little bit more over than I did then, you know.
Yes.
She made the Supreme twice, and I think I ended up 10th and 11th in the Supreme with her those years. Yeah. 1988 and 1990. Yeah.
I know, it's a long career working up to it. Like.
Sam then, 2012, he won the Irish National. Sam did.
Yes.
And he made the Supreme that year in Wales. Ended up 5th, I think, in the Supreme. Yeah.
Very good. You see, this year at the International, I was joking with our president John McCullough there. I said, you've got a stand for Toddy Lambe, one for Frank Cashin, one for Michael Gallagher, and one for James McGee.
Yeah.
I said, I'm delighted you did that, because you're not going to get nobody's going to get a chance to do that again.
Yeah. Hopefully there'll be another Irish Supreme winner fairly shortly. And
Frank got it in '97, and you got it in 2004, and then Michael Gallagher in 2010, and James McGee 2014. What does that sound like to you, Toddy? I wonder, would this be a good year?
Yeah, it's nearly getting to the stage that we could hopefully get another one fairly soon.
Maybe this year we get it out of the way.
Hopefully, I'll come to Ireland again. Yeah.
But since I come back to trials, I hear an awful lot from fellas. They tell me, you know, Paddy, the standard's a lot higher than when you used to be trialling years ago, and it's not what it used to be. It's very difficult now. And I was talking to you before, and I was talking to John Brennan about it, and John Brennan said to me, he said, I'm not sure that the standard is higher, but he said there's an awful lot more people at the standard. Would you agree with that, Toddy?
I would, yeah, I would agree with John Brennan there 100%, because when I started out like in the 80s, I seen some great runs. I seen 98, 99, I seen a 100-point run. I seen Tim Flood having a 100-point run one year, and one day with Pip.
Yes, yes.
I was there, and second place was 99 points.
Yes.
And definitely I would say that there's more people there now capable of putting up those top class runs.
Yes.
But I still couldn't say that the standard is higher as
Yes.
regards the runs, if you know what I mean. Like, there were still very good runs back then.
Yes.
You know?
There's a thing that I think a lot of people probably aren't aware of. A fella said to me a few years ago, oh, Ireland only started winning Supremes in the last few years. But people don't realise, back in, was it the 1970 or that we used to have 5 on the team, and then we were allowed to put 8 into the international.
That's right.
And
Went to 12 then.
12?
Went to 12 and then it went to the 15.
When did we get to 15, I wonder?
To be honest, I can't, it's not that long ago. It's probably 10 to 15 years ago, I'd say, maybe the 15. I'm not sure of the year that right now, but probably maybe 15 years anyhow. But it was a while before we got up to parity with the other 3 countries, you know.
Yeah, well, I think we're punching above our weight now anyway, Daddy.
Well, the reason I think that we didn't have the 15 was because we didn't have the 150 dogs in the national.
Oh, yes.
And then when we got to the 150 dogs, then entered, then we got the 15 dogs on the team, you know.
I see,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Toddy, with the standard being so high now, and so many good handlers out there, is it a bit prohibitive to new people coming into the sport, do you think?
Well, I don't think it should be.
Yeah.
You know, I think when people are starting out, and I started out myself and didn't get on very well for a good number of years, but you see the good runs, you see the good handlers having the good runs, and you say to yourself, I'd like to get up to that standard, and I'd like to stay training until I get my dogs up there, you know. And I think that's what people starting out should kind of aspire to.
Yes.
You know, to getting up there. And it won't happen overnight.
Yes.
It takes time, takes a lot of effort, and you must stick at it, you know.
Yeah, you need to be a bit resilient. When I went to my first trial and I ran my dog, and I thought, I wasn't happy with that. And then I saw you run, and I said, God, that's the way I want to run, the way that Toddy Lambe fella ran.
Yeah.
And the following week I was at a nursery in Tim Flood's, and I got to start in the nurseries, and I thought it was great because I was out with all you boys, but the standard wasn't, you know, you were all out with young dogs making mistakes.
Exactly, yeah.
I thought it was a lovely place to start.
You see, that's the thing. Someone said one time, and I often quote, Sheepdog trials is the greatest leveler of all, because you'd have a good open dog and you'd put up a good run with him, but then you must start off with a nursery dog again and start off from ground level again and work your way up, and things are not going to go right for a long time, you know.
And a great thing I see has been introduced there since I was at is the farmers class now, to give you a little bit of a half step up onto the first step.
Yeah, well that's a great class, I think. You know, it encourages young people into it. And it gives them a level, a competition, and that they're all at the same level. They're not competing against somebody that's had 20, 30, 40 years. Like, they're competing against their own, the same level that they're at.
Yes.
And they get a few prizes. And nothing gives people confidence, I think, like getting mentioned in the first 3 places or something like that. You know,
yes.
They can do it. But the young handlers, I'm all for encouraging the young handlers, and it's a great thing. They should be encouraged and bringing them on. They're the future of the whole game. But I think we should always keep in mind new handlers. And by that I mean you could have somebody 30, 40, 50, 60 years of age wanting to start out at the job, and they should be encouraged just as much as a 15-year-old. You know, I think, because they'll have a lot to contribute to trials, and they'll have a lot to contribute to the ISDS as well when they become members.
Yes.
And maybe end up running more trials and being involved in running nationals and all those things. So I just think that it is important to encourage those people.
Yes,
as well, you know?
yes, I agree with you. And none of them need to feel too bad if they go to the nursery I'm at, because I'll be out with an old half-trained dog anyway, and it won't be a big job to beat me.
Well, sure, we all have those days.
And Toddy, I know you're as keen as anybody to go out and run on a Sunday, but I also know if I'm stuck for someone to judge, that if I ask you, and I don't like asking you because I'm fairly sure you'll say yes, and so I try not to abuse it, but you judge a local trial or a nursery or anything, and for that again, like last year you were judging the World Trial, the final. Have you any thoughts about what's important when we judge, or any tips or advice?
Yeah, well, I don't know if I can give advice or not, but the way I look at judging is it's a very important job. Like, there'll be no trial without a judge.
Yes.
But in my opinion, a judge's job is to uphold the rules and make sure that everyone gets a fair and equal opportunity. But then after saying that, there's another side to it, that we as competitors must accept the judge's decision. It has to be final, and it has to be that way, you know. I think that's very important.
Yeah, so there's a responsibility on the judge to be fair with everybody and make sure to get a fair and equal chance. But
Yeah.
also, I never really thought about that. As competitors, then we need to have a bit of respect for the judge.
Yeah,
Often
well-
I get an result I don't like, but you keep your mouth shut maybe.
Yeah, well, sure, we all get maybe surprised, like we maybe wouldn't agree with a decision or something, but we have to accept it and
Yes.
move on. There'll be a trial next week again.
Yeah,
It's
of course I often got another result that maybe I thought I shouldn't have got to. So
that
there's
can
them
happen.
days too.
Yeah, exactly. That can happen as well. We can get a surprise
Yeah,
each way.
So it's
But
just
sometimes
important
yeah.
to try and take the good with the bad, you think?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
important, but the judge, like, he needs to make sure that everything is okay at the two ends of the field.
Yes.
It's not just knocking points off around the field, you know. Make sure that the sheep are in a position at the far end of the field, that the dog gets a fair chance to lift them and get on a
Yes.
line for the fetching, and then that the whole way around, that, you know, things are that the competitor is there with a chance, the
Yes.
same as everyone,
Yes.
and that everyone has an equal chance, you know. And you can't do any more than that, I think.
Yeah.
You know, you just judge what you see then after that.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
must say I'm always very happy to run under you. Whenever I see you on the pen, I know I'm getting fairness.
Well,
anyway.
I try to do the best I can do. Now, it's not everyone is not going to agree with the way I judge,
Yes.
and that's understandable. Like, it's the same as refereeing a match. The referee is not going to be right all the time in everybody's eyes, but all you can do is treat everyone the same
Yeah.
and treat everyone equal, and whatever way it works out, then after that it works out, you know.
And do you think everybody should have if they get a chance at judging or being on the pen, that they should take it up there? And
I definitely do think that, because if a person didn't judge a trial, I thought judging was a handy job enough, and the more of it that I do, I realise the harder it is,
Yes.
because you see new things happening every day, and it's a scratch your head moment.
Yes.
You know, what should I do here? What's the best thing to do here? What's the fairest thing to do here?
Yes.
You know, and you'll see, usually every time you judge a trial, something different will happen that you have to make a decision on.
Yeah. This business of away with dogs now, that's an exciting new competition there, and an exciting opportunity. What do you think of that now?
Yeah,
What do you make
sure.
of being invited?
I'm looking forward to it. It's
Yeah.
it's, as you say, it's a new competition. It should be really interesting, and I'm delighted to get a crack at it, to get a chance at it.
Yeah, it's
and
interesting.
to be involved.
We're sitting here in Wexford now, and this minute Bodfari is probably only about 30 miles straight across over the sea a bit there.
Yeah.
And at least it's not a strange place for us. We've all seen it in the videos with
Yeah,
planes
yeah.
come by and away.
That's
Anyway,
it
we'll
for
know where
years.
we're going.
Yeah, we know the type of terrain it is and everything. Yeah.
And then the competitors. You have a fairly good idea of the competitors there now too. Like, you know, our Irish lads here,
Yeah.
and you know most of the Welsh fellas and the Scottish fellas.
Yeah.
And then you've been judging the Europeans, and even fellas like Derek Fisher from America. Like, you were on the pen there, you got a good look at him.
Yeah. It's very hot competition.
Yeah,
And it'll be a very good trial. I'm really looking forward to it, and meeting all those people.
Yeah, I think, you know, I was talking to you there before about your style of handling, and I was wondering, had it changed much over the years? And you were saying you didn't think it did, but say compared to the likes of Yaron and Kevin, surely you must have a very different way of working to those boys.
Probably, yeah. I'm inclined to slow the thing down a bit. I'm not good to handle at speed. Creeping in that way a bit now, more to let the dog push on and keep things tipping on a little faster. But I'd rather keep the thing under control. Maybe sometimes I can slow it down a bit too much, you know. But it's my way.
Yeah.
But I can see the merit in handling the other way too.
It's funny to hear you saying that about slowing it down. It didn't stop you winning Supremes and Nationals and things.
Yeah, well, I don't like going too fast, because usually if things get too fast, it can get out of control. If the thing go wrong, you have no time then. If you're near a hurl and sheep are running fairly fast and they make a duck to miss it, well, it's very hard to catch it then, you know.
Yes.
If things are going a bit slower, you have some chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I often think, like Kevin and Yaron, and just to mention a couple of names, they've taken it to a kind of a new level there. It's almost a science. Whereas when I see fellas like you, it's nearly you are the religion. So we've got the science and the religion.
And the religion
for the onlookers.
Yeah,
it's going to be a lovely competition. So Toddy, I know you have a few very nice dogs, and it's not long now till away with dogs. Have you decided who you're going to run?
Yeah, well, I'm going to run Ben. He's a 7-year-old dog now. Actually, there's a bit of a story to Ben. He was the last dog that Tim Flood ever trialled, and Tim got into failing health then, and Kathleen asked me would I take down a couple of the dogs for her. So I took down a couple of dogs, and Ben was one of them. And I got on fairly well with him, and then Tim unfortunately died then in 2014, and Kathleen said to me, she said, you keep the dog now, the dog is yours. So that's, but he wasn't registered.
Yes.
And I didn't know he's back breeding.
Yes.
So I got him registered then on merit.
Ah.
Yeah, and that's how.
Well, it's lovely to have the link back to Tim, but he's not too ordinary either. He got you on the team last year, didn't he?
He made a team last year, yeah. Things went wrong at international, all right.
Yeah, as they can.
Yeah, as they can and often do. But he's a nice little dog, not the strongest in the world, but he's a nice little dog. He can have a good run if things go his way, you know.
Yes. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing him. And so
Okay.
thanks very much, Toddy, for
Thanks
meeting
very
us.
much, Pat. Yeah.
Great
Thank
talking
you.
to you again.
You too.
Thanks.
Thank you.